Mariah.
Hey, Monique.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing really well today, and I'm excited for our guest who's in the studio with us.
Oh my gosh, me too. Such a good day.
We have been packing the house with incredible guests lately, and
Yes.
I know hearing their stories is so inspirational to us and to our listeners.
And we love sharing the amazing women that we get to work with because our guest today has been or is a mastermind participant, is a business owner. She is in politics and she is a mom of lovely children. So I think we should dive in. What do you think?
I'm ready to go. Welcome to Heart and Soul, the podcast where we empower and inspire women to lead their best lives, harnessing the power of their hearts and souls. We are Mariah
And Monique,
your hosts and guides on this journey of self-discovery and personal growth.
in each episode, we will dive deep into topics that matter most to you, from self-love and confidence to career development, relationships, and everything in between. We believe that every woman has a unique strength and inner wisdom waiting to be unleashed.
Join us as we cover insightful heart and soul-centered topics and interview incredible women who've overcome challenges, chased their dreams, and found their true purpose. Through all of this, you will discover practical tips, strategies, and real-life stories to help you navigate life's twists and turns.
For whatever season of life you're in, this podcast is your safe space to explore, learn, grow, and possibly even laugh and cry with us. So grab your headphones, maybe your favorite drink, and we'll embark on this transformative journey together.
With heart, I'm Mariah.
And with soul, I'm Monique.
So, welcome, Annie.
Hi, good morning, or good afternoon.
Whatever it is, doesn't matter.
It's welcome.
Well, we're excited to welcome you to the Heart and Soul podcast as a member of the Heart and Soul Mastermind. You are just amazing us monthly with all of the accomplishments that you have in the many parts of your life. And that is something we'll focus on today's conversation for sure, that you have feet in a lot of different circles. But also, I really just want to, give you a chance to tell your story. But first, we have a tradition here where we sort of share our stories about you and how we met you. Do you want to go first, Monique?
Sure. I believe, and you had to refresh my memory because it's been a while ago that we met. And we have just kind of been acquaintances in different circles, right? Circulating. So I don't know how long ago it was, maybe 10 years ago. Your brother started dating a friend of mine. They got married. And I think we met, you said one of our other friends were her date on New Year's Eve before you were married. I mean, so many life things have happened since then. It's no wonder I've lost complete track of time. You've always been lovely, intelligent, a go-getter. I mean, just watching you and admiring you from afar, it's been such a privilege and honor then to have you in our mastermind group because I'm just getting like full body chills. Like it's so cool.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel like in a similar vein, our worlds were swirling around each other for many years and we became Facebook friends. And a story that we share in common too is that we were traveling to Barcelona and Annie was so kind to hop into my DMs with like, while you're there, you got to go to this restaurant and do this and this. And then we did, and we were able to share that. And we're like, we did this, we took a picture.
Yeah.
And then more recently, we ran into each other around town and it just ended up in this great conversation in the middle of a crowded restaurant. And it was at that point that I was like, but really the mastermind, I think this would be a good fit for you. And
well, for your business, really.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. For your business, because you have just had this explosive entrepreneurial experience and so cool that you do with your husband and also becoming a mom and also being an incredible powerhouse in our county politics. And I'll let you share what your title is because I'll probably get it wrong. But that is particularly interesting to me too as a political science major and someone who's just really invested in both community politics and just overall. I've loved hearing and learning from you, like what that's experiences like in the world. So without further ado, welcoming Annie Harala to our podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Co-owner of Story North Productions
Mhm.
as an entrepreneur. And then first female head.
Yeah, first female board chair in 20 years on the St. Louis County
Amazing.
Board.
In
There we go.
20 years.
20 years.
Wow.
Amazing.
Take some
we're,
time.
we're so awesome, and then we have to take a break, and then we come back. Hopefully it's not that long in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Annie, share with us your story. Go as far back and as
Yes.
detailed as you'd like. And I'm just excited for our listeners to hear about your journey.
Mhm.
That sounds great. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh my goodness, yes.
We've talked about being in community together. And what I think is so cool about the area that we live in, whether it's Duluth or the region or even the careers we choose, it's neat to see the people you've looked up to around the ways and how those concentric circles come together. So I'm excited to get to be here working with you and learning from you both. The mastermind has been so helpful.
Oh,
so
good.
really helpful. It's funny how when you let things happen or you kind of keep going with listen to your angels, how things can start manifesting in the right way, as we've been talking about.
Aligned.
Yeah, aligned.
No,
I know.
The full body goose.
I call it aligned action. When you
yeah.
start moving into that aligned action, just more aligned action, it's like the ripples.
I
You
love
know?
it.
Yeah.
So I was born and raised in Duluth and right by Chester Bowl. My mom
Oh.
raised my older brother and me on her own. And so we spent
Wow.
a lot of time, the three of us. He's much older than me. And when I was in fourth grade, he went off to join the 148th. And so it was my mom and me really just kind of against the world, but really connected, but also, and we lived in this wonderful neighborhood that everyone really took care of each other. My mom and many of our neighbors had moved on from the Iron Range to have careers here, and we just really took care of one another. And so my understanding of the world was really formed and built around how people knew each other, what their lives looked like, really integrating and connecting families, et cetera. My mom was while being a teacher in the district and doing all this stuff, she was like PTA president, doing all of those different things. And just somebody that was really always just said, you can do whatever you want. I'm here for you. In fact, when I was in college, she said the only thing I couldn't do was become a nun. She said, yeah.
I need grandchildren is probably what she said, right?
No, she actually said, I'd rather have you be a stripper because your life would be much more interesting than being a nun.
Oh my gosh, I love
really-
that.
And I was like, Mom.
I like your mom a lot.
She is, when you get to know her, she's pretty quiet when she's around adults, but when you get a little in there, she's really funny. So she's just always talked about going and seeing the world. And she's somebody that lived, in Virginia, has moved around a little bit, but wanted her kids to see the world and experience these things and worked really hard to support that. So I went away and got a degree in public relations and spent some time in AmeriCorps, which I'm sad to see is being cut in our country right now. It's like the Peace Corps in your own backyard. If you don't know what that is, you spend a year serving, and it helped a lot. And then I came back to Duluth and managed an AmeriCorps program for the 10 counties
I
in
did
Northeast
not know
Minnesota.
this.
Yeah.
That's
So it was
impressive.
It was great. I was
Okay.
working for the Duluth Y.
Yep.
And if you are young in your career and you can get a job at a YMCA, holy cow, you can learn so much. They train their staff like crazy. They equip them with so many things, and they really love the growth pattern of that. So it's a great place to start and to have a career. So I was there
What
for
a
a
great
number.
tip.
Oh.
Because that's not just something you would know.
No,
Yeah.
I
love that.
Yeah, agreed.
It
I
was,
didn't know.
It was super helpful. And I worked alongside, at the time, I think there were 90 members in Northeast Minnesota. I was the rural coordinator. So I would some days wake up and go from Duluth all the way to Brainerd. And then I'd come back to Aiken, and then I'd go to
You
McGregor,
drive
and then
all
I'd come
that?
home
Wow.
in a day. And then I would go, then I was all up in Cook County.
Wow. It's a big region.
Yeah. So it was neat. And I got to really understand in that role, because our students they were working on mentoring, tutoring, and after school programming.
Okay.
Really working with kids. And what I learned from that in these 10 counties was just the interconnection of, Duluth is the hub of many things. And then there's so much that goes on throughout our region. And so while I love doing that job, so I was kind of aching to learn a little bit more, and I got into a role, and as a grant manager in public health. So kind of took that skill set of community connections in working in after-school programming and moved into working within public health on policies and systems and environmental changes around health equity. So helping hospitals with baby-friendly pieces, helping moms, supporting moms with the choice to feed their babies, whether it be breast or other places, walking to school, biking to school, healthy school, like all these different things. And so they were
very diverse.
It was really cool in the 7 counties again. And I was working with staff. There were about 17 staff at all the counties and nonprofits around the region that had 101 coalitions in our region. 101 coalitions talking about how they could make their community more connected and healthy. And consistently, what came back to me was people working together. Like I said, how I grew up.
The theme.
And so when I talk a lot about my career, actually, to backtrack, when I was at the Y, there was a woman who was working at the paper locally for the Budgeteer when that was open. And people kept saying we looked alike. So she's like, I want to do an article on you.
It's like, you're my doppelganger.
Okay.
I want an article.
She did. But it was Annie Harala, the master of human connections. And I was like, and
that's sweet.
It kind of worked like from that time. So if I look back at my career, it's just a funny thing to remember. So I loved what I was doing and seeing across the region with all these policies being changed. And I looked at my own community and thought, what can I do? Because so often we can navel gaze and think, they're doing so great. Why can't we do that here? And we do that while we scroll on our phones, or we do it while
we don't actually take action.
Yes,
so true.
And like I often say, the click of your heels is much more effective than the click of a mouse. Like there's so much more you can do in a community.
Oh my gosh,
I love that. Can we just like coin that right now? That phrase, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm wearing red shoes. I'm gonna wear them.
You're gonna wear your red shoes.
I like it.
Click. Yeah, I like it.
But it's true, and it's really finding ways to engage people and to help people feel seen. And so what I noticed while across the region was that in our community, I didn't feel like our schools were having I didn't feel represented on the school board.
Okay.
And so, and I had started getting involved in a levy, which if you don't know what a levy is, it's fundraising for operational costs for a school district. Levies are for learning, if bonds are for building. So helpful for people to know.
That's actually a good tip, actually, the way that you're saying that.
Yeah. So it's helpful. I had to learn that after I misstated it to the amazing Barbara Riles on air.
Oh, no.
And so now I know many years later, and it was amazing. So levies are for learning. Anyway, so I had gotten involved in that and thought, I really want to see a young person run for office. I would like to see a young woman on the school board.
I don't know any of those.
I did. So I asked everyone I knew, you need to run. You need to run.
You were telling other people to
run. Of course, because that's what women do.
Because you're not, and also you're not a young person, right? No.
Oh, she was at that time, I'm sure.
No, that's what I meant.
You were thinking of yourself.
Totally was.
Yes. At the time I was 29 and I was I just want to
I want someone under 30, 35.
Yes. I was like, I want this. They can be a parent. They don't have to be a parent. And as women do, it actually, on average, takes women an average of 7 times to be asked to run for office in order to say yes.
Wow.
Men most often jump up and will be like, oh, yep, I got it. Don't worry. Just like they apply for jobs at higher scales, ask for higher wages. They'll run for office easier because the path has been shown to them their entire lives for that. And there's that inherent ability. And so I said a couple things. I was like, if I'm going to run, I need, in my head, like someone asked me kind of quietly. And I was like, if I'm going to run, I want this. And I got ended up getting a message from that person. And then I'd be like, no, that's not good enough. I need a message from this person. And then finally I was like, I hope I hear from maybe the mayor in the town. And I happened to run into someone and he was like, hey, I've heard you're interested. You should run. And I was like, dang it.
Shoot, the universe wants this.
And I guess I can't run away from this any longer.
And what I know is that it's not the other people asking that made me make that decision.
Yeah.
It was me really having to look into myself to do that. And so often we say, oh, that person asked me, so I owe them. Really, you owe it to yourself along the way that you've stepped in and made these decisions. So I decided to run for office, and I sat my family down at Blackwoods downtown and was like, okay, Mom and Jeremy, I'm just going to let you know I'm running for school board. But actually before it, I was like, I have news. And I was like, I'm pregnant. Actually, I'm not. And now I know how detrimentally terrible that is to women who have infertility, having walked through it myself. But anyway.
So you're like, I'm
there's
broke
a
to your
whole-
list and never mind.
Another journey.
My mom was like, I think I'd rather have you be pregnant right now, but that's okay. And I wasn't dating anyone at the time. It was okay. That what she would have understood because she'd walked through that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I ran for office and worked my tail off. I met with anyone that I possibly could. I'm somebody who has deep roots in the DFL party, also known as Democratic Farmer Labor. If you're not from Minnesota and you're listening from this, it's in Minnesota, we're Democrats, we're Democratic Farmer Labor, and I don't know. Progressive history. That said, I've learned a lot about politics and I feel like I can identify with so many different areas of that. And in learning this, I found out that I love working in nonpartisan offices. So I would meet with like DFL folks. And then I was, at the time, the Tea Party was really big and I was meeting with pretty far right folks and just having honest conversations. And what does it come down to? When you're a representative, you just need to talk to people.
Connection, maybe?
Yep. Yeah. Connection.
Go
Look at
figure.
that.
So it's all about connection. And I worked really hard. I can go back to there's sometimes numbers you remember in your life. I bet you remember like your first big sale or those things. And I remember the final total was 11,064 people. Put a little bubble next to my name and said, I want her to do that, highest vote getter, which was really neat.
That's awesome.
In the region. And it was from this place. And I ran on a campaign of really, I was not there had been a significant shift in our community around our school district and investment in schools that had been dilapidated for a significant amount of time.
It was a really tumultuous time to be on the school board because they had serious decisions.
Yeah, it was serious. And all these decisions had been made and the process that the leaders had gone through, the decisions weren't made in a way that people felt seen in that process. Whether the outcomes are that there are some, like I can say, I know now a lot of the data, like kids and teachers are out less sick days because the air quality is better. And when there's a fissure in a community and we don't address it or talk about it or shift leadership to be inclusive and connecting, you will continue hearing from those same people over and over again that are frustrated because they haven't felt heard.
I didn't even live here. And I could tell you, I know you're talking about the Red Plan.
Right? It was crazy bananas.
That's how much it was in the fabric
my kids
of
went
the community.
through it. It was awful for them. But
and it's hard.
And
like, and we know kids are resilient and parents are resilient, but in a community that has, Duluth is wonderful and has a tendency to both expect the best of itself or want the best for itself and expect the worst to happen.
Yes.
In anything that we do.
So well said.
It's what happens in our community so often.
I feel like it's because we live and work in the same exact community. Like if we were in the Twin Cities, a larger city, I might live in one city, work in another city, grocery shop in another city. We are all here doing all of the things in one city. So we're so overly invested in every minutia of thing that happens. It makes us just have high expectations.
And in a population of a city that's a really good point because in a population like that in the Twin Cities, there'd be one high school.
Right.
And if we look at how our community is set up, it geographically could anyway. Because it's so long and skinny, it's not going to work.
It's complicated, and I think what you're highlighting is just local politics are complicated.
Yes,
and you're finding yourself embroiled in it, right?
Yes,
right away, right out of the gate.
School board at the time you went on though, complicated.
It was quite. There was a lot going on. There's some decisions I would go back and I would look differently. I can't. You can never unmake a decision.
Yeah, hindsight's always 20/20.
Yes, and some things like there was a big decision around a high school that another school wanted to buy. And I know I didn't make that decision. Now it's going to become our newest neighborhood. But instead of just when I was I was chairing at the time. And when we were talking about whether or not to stick with the policy where you don't sell a school to an old school, just like, Walmart is not going to sell Target at their old store.
Right.
That's way more. But I'm not making it that easy. It's a lot harder than that. But what I said was, let's get people in. Let's pack. So we packed the Lincoln Park middle school auditorium and sat there for 3.5, 4 hours and told the community, talk about what you think. Everyone got 3 minutes.
Wow.
For everyone to hear.
That had to be exhausting.
We're going to sit. It was very exhausting. I had like pages and pages of notes.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm somebody that like, if I start getting anxious, I like take little notes just to do that or like, remind myself. A helpful tip with someone with anxiety. And I think that the tenor of the night, of course, was hard.
Mhm.
And yet my former roommate and her husband who worked at the school, who wanted to buy it, who wanted to happen, walked out with me after and made sure that we were just chatting. And for me, the tenor was just like, people need to be heard. And I took that in and shifted how I talked about things because I realized, oh, this person feels dismissed or this person feels that way. And you kind of take it in. Our former mayor, Emily Larson, once told me when you're in politics, you have to have Teflon skin where you take in a little bit of the flavor and pour out the shit.
Oh, I love that.
And it was so helpful. She was a really helpful person I connect with often in that time. She was on council at the time. And so, I learned a lot while I was there. Oh, also while I was running, I met my husband. I forgot to say that.
Oh, that's sort of a big life event.
So I'm like running for office, and he was an anchor on the local NBC station at the time, and my campaign manager, very public, but like kind of quiet to start. These little secret dates, but it was his meteorologist was neighbors with my campaign manager.
That's right.
And then they introduced us, and we've been together ever since, which has been great. And I've learned a lot from him, and
don't you feel like really great relationships? They are like the foundation of which you can build your life. You know, when they're supportive, when they really enhance and help you.
Yes.
Right?
It's a steadying force that I've had and also an empowering thing. Like I feel lucky that I'm now married to somebody that is like, do you? It's hot that you're a leader. Go. I'm not afraid of you. I couldn't have been around. I had dated some people that were like, still wearing wind pants at the bar because that's what I thought. And like, we're a little intimidated that I had too much leadership. And like, I'll tell you, he's still wearing wind pants at the bar.
It's funny when you think that's all you can get. Right? Or that you deserve. And then you level up and you're like, oh, why was I playing so small?
Yes.
And I think of you two as a power couple.
Yeah.
Like
I agree.
just from an outside observer, you found your aligned match.
We did. And we see ourselves as like power nerds. So we just like, we
that.
love
That's
it.
Even better.
I don't know. There's a simplicity that comes from having, I think it was helpful that I know it's helpful that he came from this very public life.
Yeah.
And it didn't necessarily affect him. His Danish roots helped with that. There's this whole idea in Denmark called jentelo, which means you're never better than the person that's next to you.
I love that.
And so he just espouses that. And no matter who he's around, you're just like, I feel comfortable with, and
great guy.
It was a part of us. And so he helped me kind of stay centered on,
wonderful.
We're doing all this public stuff, but
that's not who you're coming home to.
Yeah.
Right. We just put your pants on the same way.
Yes.
Right.
So he got a promote. I, loved the school board. As I was doing that, I kept things that were coming up about what needed to happen in the school district were more about housing and things that were not within the realm of a school board member. And a lot of people want schools to answer everything.
Yeah.
They can't.
No.
They don't have the budgets for it.
So
they don't
true.
have the capacity. They don't have time. There's all these expectations from different governmental entities telling them to test more, when really that relationship between a kid and a teacher and how they're educated and the safety that they feel is so important.
Oh, yeah.
That a community
Basics.
around them.
Yes.
Basics.
It should be back to basics.
And so I felt the need to like get more involved in what was happening around helping families.
Yes.
And so I found out about the county board at that time. Between that and the work I was doing, while I was on the school board, I was still working in grant management for public health. I was like, county board looks really great. It's like, I'm going to do that someday. I just knew it in my heart.
Wow.
And
like, I'm going.
Yeah. And so I decided not to run again. Kevin had just gotten a promotion, and he, as oftentimes happens in relationships, women especially step back. But we had a very hard discussion about him moving into leadership. He was becoming news director at the station, and I was going to run again, and then decided not to, just because it was potentially a conflict of interest. Well, then I got asked to manage a congressional campaign.
Oh, wow.
And I jumped in and did it. And anyway, there were all these caveats on their website for a little while about like this person, Annie Harala, is married to Kevin Jacobson, and he does not do this.
Yeah, the legal blah, blah, blah,
yes, which is important. Like
Yes.
we also
Yep.
the thing that I learned along the time with him is that if you have a news story about you, and it is, if you're a little bit upset and a little bit happy, it's right.
It's
So,
right.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's so
Yep.
true.
So anyway, I was able to do that. That person then decided not to run for Congress after I left my job, and I was like, what do I do? So somehow I ended up with a contract doing all the communications on Superior Street reconstruction, which then I
and
realized that's where we
when-
met.
That's when we really would see each other regularly.
Yes, regularly. I'd be like in talking like, sorry, you're going to lose your door here. But I learned again at that time, helping with a major reconstruction project of our main street in town, the value. And I quickly launched my own consulting business to help this construction company.
Yeah.
Go door to door, work with each business. And what I loved was that opportunity to, instead of working in 7 or 10 counties, I was working 2 to 4 blocks at a time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I just fell in love with Duluth, and I loved the downtown. I was then brought on to that construction company full-time to do sales because I realized that they found an opportunity in me with relationship building, and I found an opportunity in them for a great company. I loved working with North End constructors. I'm still very dear friends with many of them. And then in the midst of that, Kevin started getting into taking photos in the community because he was getting tired of being a manager. And like he and I both do, as soon as we get a hobby, sometimes how it becomes our life.
Oh, I know.
Sure.
Yeah.
And so he launched his own business on the side, Kevin Jacobson Creative. And then at some point in time, we said, let's do this together.
Ah.
And he's like, let's launch a company. And I was like, okay, I think that sounds great. I would love to do that with you. I've got this PR background. You've got this, you have the ability to do great storytelling. And we started out and launched Story North Productions 4 years ago.
Only 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow. You guys are so polished. I would have thought it was 40 years ago.
Thank you. It's
Yes.
some days it feels like it was yesterday. And sometimes I'm like,
feels like
it's fun. Yeah.
It reminds me when you're speaking of so much of my own entrepreneurial journey of like, yeah, let's just do this.
Mhm.
And then if you are in a supportive partnership where both people are like on board, how
Yeah.
quickly it moves
Oh,
and
it's so,
how
yes.
the doors just open. And
Yes.
so like, you're like, let's just do this. And actually you can just do this.
Mhm.
So
That's such a good point. So yeah, we jumped in and did that. I ended up leaving toward the end of 21. I ended up deciding to join him full time because our business grew really quickly. And in 2022, in the midst, we've been walking through our fertility process. So doing all these public things and trying to get pregnant and trying to lessen my stress and do all these things. And finally, we made the decision to move forward with, in 2022, we're like, let's foster to adopt. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's move forward with that process, began that. And then I found out the guy that had been in the seat for a long time at the county board was not going to run again. I was like, I'm running. I'm doing it.
That
Doing
thing I
it.
said I was
Yeah,
going to do,
that
I
thing-
guess it's today.
Yeah. And I had, so a helpful tip for people interested in running for office. I had had a conversation with the person. I wasn't going to run against the sitting person that had been there for 12 years. I
Sure.
respect Frank's history and what he did on the board. And I sat down with him and just said, I really respect what you've done. Thank you for your service. When you decide to step back, I'm ready to step forward. And I will do that.
That was great.
And there are some times where people get really offended.
Like,
And
I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Or, yes.
Frank was
yes.
gracious. And I was also careful to say, if you run again, I'm so excited. I'm all in to support you. When you're done, just know I'm ready to run. And it felt good for me, to be honest, and kind of move that forward. It also felt like it kind of put forward that manifestation of,
Yes.
saying
yes,
it
yes,
out
yes,
loud.
Yes. Yes.
Mhm.
so he decided not to run. I ran. And then we brought home these 2 little boys in the midst of running and working in our business full time. We brought home an almost 9-month-old. And then a month and a half later, his little brother came. And so we went from 0 to 2 kids in a month and a half, 2 babies.
While running.
While running
Yeah.
for
And
office.
a newer business.
And a new business. So I was like, oh, okay, that's great. And
The juggling, the spinning plates.
we can do it. I'm like carrying literally. Robbie was such a sweet little chunk that he wasn't really in one of those carriers for long. He was on the hip, and then Johnny was on this.
Trunk. I love
And
the way
he's
you
like,
said-
now he's just shot up to be this he's 4 and like a 6T size. Anyway, he's just, anyway, so he's really, they've grown a lot. And so then unfortunately a month and a half after we got the boys, my best friend was diagnosed with cancer or re-diagnosed with cancer. She passed away and we assumed custody as we had promised many years earlier of her 2 teens.
Wow. So now you're at 4 kids.
Yeah.
You go to
in
0?
a couple months time.
Yes. 0 to 4 kids in 3 months. So
And not exactly like babies and teenagers.
Yes. Same thing. Same things. They're kind of the same. Like they like
one you need to feed
yes
physically and the other one you need to drive.
Yes, they get hangry quickly.
Yeah.
They no, but you know, and the girls didn't live with us. They lived with another friend, but I always say that the last thing that Renee gave me, I worked really hard when while I was running to tell people I was running, but Renee's last gift was that I didn't get an opponent. And so I felt like I lucked out that it was like the last on her deathbed. I was like, "Hey, I didn't get an opponent. just letting you know, Renee." And she wasn't really connecting, but it's something that I always think back to. Anyway, so just like I oftentimes say, I do everything like the Kool-Aid man. So I jumped into 2022 like bursting through a wall, and
I can just see
I can see a future campaign with you bursting through a wall.
Like, but really, to me, that's both. 2022 is both, you heard a lot of my story and what built me, but I feel like I was birthed by that year in a way that like everything in my life changed. I changed my job. I became a mom.
Transformative.
Yeah. I experienced loss. I became more of an auntie figure to these young, amazing humans. And so a lot happened. And what happened for me in that moment was that I've let community come around me. And I finally had to get to the spot where I couldn't fix everything for everyone, or I couldn't do everything. And what I'd spent a lot of my life doing was just making sure everybody was set. And I had to understand that power of community that really builds you. And that year really built me to start being an elected official in 2023, where I was ready to serve. I was more ready to serve. I had more time to be ready to serve as a politician than I was to be a mom. Usually get 9 months. I had 9 months to actually start office.
It was kind of flip-flop there.
Yeah, it was flip-flop.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Think about that.
It's wild.
I think it might have been
30
better.
seconds.
Yeah, 30 seconds. Here you go. Oh, by the way, here's your
kids.
baby. Oh, and the brothers are biologically brothers. That's why we had them.
Yeah.
So, and we walked through the whole process where we fostered them and then adopted them throughout everything. But I love this piece now where I get to own this company alongside Kevin, and then and that's kind of a piece of my life. But what I really love doing, I love being a mom. It's great. I could talk about it all day. What I'm excited about really engaging with you guys today is being a woman in an elected office
Yes.
nowadays. And I feel so lucky to get to do what I'm doing, and it's really freaking hard.
Yes.
And also, it's possible for people to do. You heard everything that's on my plate, and I don't recommend following my path. Like, don't do that. But also, like, if you're doing it, like, ask for help, and
You're going to be fine.
yeah. And like, I'll be up front. Everyone asks, like, how do you do this? I'm like, I am on meds consistently for my anxiety.
Yeah.
I have weekly therapy. I have a common practice of spending time with my husband, whether it's date nights in the evening or other pieces like that. You do less extra, even though you have all these responsibilities.
Yes.
But you just do a little bit less, and you focus a little bit more on the things that really matter. And I don't really have time to deal with like the stuff that I used to get really anxious about, because
Sure.
I don't.
Reprioritize.
But I think that's really important to say out loud. Like, there's not a lot of people that share all of those pieces. And so I have a pretty strong like core practice of just like reconnecting with myself often and reconnecting with my family. And that could be just like with my boys on a swing, or it could be being in our community. So I love what I get to do.
Your story, I've heard it more than once, and every time I'm just like, God, this is good.
Yeah, it is.
This is good stuff right here. This
very
is a
inspiring.
woman who has this long history and like connected track. Like, I love like going all the way back, all these different points where like you are following your calling. You were always meant to serve in a public capacity, and you were growing those skills along the way. And then that you like the burst through the wall of all of that,
Kool-Aid man.
all of that abundance landing in your lap at the same time is, in many ways sort of meant to be, right? Like you're going to do something, go big or go home. And you sure did. And now here you are in I've been inspired in hearing from you in our mastermind about that. Speaking about women in politics,
Mhm.
this is a really tough topic.
Mhm.
We do not have the best examples right now of success stories on the national level. And it's hard. It's hard to sit back and be like, how have we still not had a woman president? Right.
Mhm.
And then I go back to like, we have to look at what we do have. And we do have so many women out there serving in our
Great
communities.
leaders.
At the city level,
Mhm.
we've had examples of phenomenal female mayor in our town.
Mhm.
We have you as the head of the board, in our county level. We have some amazing women at our state level. Like, there should not be a reason to be discouraged, only encouraged to keep trying harder.
The one point I want to make about that is right now when we're really polarized in our world, in
Mhm.
our political world, I love that your kind of like mantra or the way that you that you work and that you were identified is through community and connection,
Mhm.
because that's the only thing that's going to get us out of polarization.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
talked about this before.
We did.
About you can have conversations with people with opposing views. You just have to stay curious and open-minded. And that is all about just having that connection piece. So you're the type of person we need in positions of power right now to help us navigate who's the powers that be that are polarizing us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's I feel like a muscle you have to work. Like it's a muscle to
Yeah.
be able to sit and listen to stuff. I learned a lot on the school board. I would sit with a couple people that they would be lying, and I have this like very like truth and justice and fairness are very deep core values of mine. And when
Mhm.
people lie or say things,
Mhm.
I'm like, it just gets me so upset. So I've a practice of if I'm hearing someone lying, I will listen. I listen and I try to find the things that like maybe I disagree with what you're saying, but what is the nugget that I can take away from this?
Yes.
And then I'll stand up for myself. Oftentimes when people are saying things about me, I'll be like, oh, I hear what you're saying. Oftentimes I hear what you're saying and I disagree and here's why. And let's keep moving forward.
Yep.
And then there's sometimes you just kind of keep moving on. Like there's some people who are just never going to change.
Mm.
And I'm going to need them to come a couple of steps here. And if I can come a little steps here, we can make things happen. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to have been a part of championing some huge investments in housing in our region, or not a region, in our county, especially in my district, from housing to helping at survivors of child sexual assault, like these pieces in the first couple of years that I've been able to work on. And right now I think two areas I'm really excited about is one, working on changing the model for how we serve and engage with folks that are on the spectrum of being unhoused.
Yeah.
We are really struggling within our
Beautiful.
downtown. We have a
Yeah.
lot, and it's not just our downtown, actually our whole community.
Yes.
Homelessness actually raised by 50% during COVID in St.
Yes.
Louis during COVID. And there's a lot of people that are like, oh, it's because people come to St. Louis County to get benefits. Like actually it's our friends and neighbors that lost their homes in COVID
Yeah.
and are sometimes living in cars right now and showering before they come to work.
Mm.
There are so many
So
people
sad.
that are using food shelves that you wouldn't even
think.
expect.
Yep.
And so anytime people say like, oh, those people or that person,
Yes.
there's somebody right next to you that's experiencing
They're
that.
not far removed.
They're
It's
not.
so hard when that happens,
Mhm.
the judgments. Yeah, it really bothers me.
And we are all, any business owner could be one or two steps away
yes.
from losing every single thing.
Oh
And
my
for
God.
us, like we moved this last summer. I'm like, if we move, if we lose our business, we lose our
Yes.
house, we do all these things. I was like, if the world blows up, to my therapist, if the world blows up, what do? I shouldn't move into this house. And she said, if the world blows up, we're all going to be going through it together. So
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Do
we've
what
all
you need
gone
to
through
do.
it together, right?
Yes.
COVID was
oof.
an opportunity to learn, like, well, when
a great reset.
that it happened, we got through it.
Yeah.
So
Working on the homeless model and really
Mhm.
working on understanding and kind of tribal, really engaging from a top-down leadership level on tribal sovereignty in our region.
Okay.
So
I love
Beautiful.
that.
two areas I've worked a ton on, and yeah.
So what advice do you have for a woman who is feeling some inner stirrings of I want to like run for office, or I think I could be really good at serving my community through politics? Like, what advice do you have?
Yeah, I'd like to hear this too, actually.
Well, good. Start by saying it out loud.
Mhm.
Don't be afraid to say that you want to do it. And say it to somebody say it first to someone that champions you.
Mhm.
Say it to somebody that do that. And then say it to somebody who always tells you no.
Oh.
Because you're going to have both of those people talk to you during that time. But after you talk to the person that says no, talk to the next person that is a champion with you. And then talk to a friend that is inquisitive. And so there's a lot of resources for women. There's an organization called Vote, Run, Lead that does a great job at helping women like learn the basics of running for office. Also reach out to people. If there's someone listening to this in their community and they want to talk to someone about running for office, I love talking to people.
Yeah.
Like, I know I sound like I'm really busy, but part of what I do in what I love bringing other people along. And I really believe in that. Like, okay, if I've been held up by other people, I want to bring people along.
Yep.
And I it's just so incredibly important. And then find out the type, attend a school board meeting, attend a county board meeting, attend a city council meeting, find out what they actually do.
Mhm.
Yes.
We're not going to get national health care being on the city council.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
Right.
But at the city council, you're really going to look at policies for how our everyday life is affected.
Yes.
And so I think people assume, oh, you're going to run for office, you're going to run for U.S. Senate. I mean, and we're super lucky to have Amy and Tina. So I'm so glad we have them to look up to in Minnesota. There are so many local elected official offices that we need filled by smart and kind and driven people.
Yeah.
We need school board members that are going to dig into the hard things. We need city councilors that are going to find ways that are going to innovate and grow our community. We need county commissioners that are going to help continue to connect our communities across our county.
Mhm.
We need people that are ready to do. We need doers and not there's a lot of times where people are like, I want to walk in and I'm only going to have my set of values and I'm going to do this more like from an activist. And that's people can choose to have an activist framework and that's you're not going to get as much done. I actively support many causes and work to pragmatically make steps forward that are going to make our community stronger. So.
Do you feel that it is?
I love that.
Yeah. Do you feel that it is possible for? Well, actually, it is because you're doing it. But explain how being an entrepreneur goes hand in hand, side by side with being, in politics.
Yeah,
because they're both all-consuming.
They're all-consuming,
and then also children too. But
well, three all-consuming hats to wear.
I couldn't do this back to my mom. I couldn't do any of this without my mom. She's like she helps us all the time.
That's
and a husband who's, honestly, he does more cleaning in our house than I do. He takes over. There's these traditional roles that we expect women to have, or then women or men. There are things that we just made decisions on that he's going to take the brunt of that. I'm going to take the brunt of this, and this is how we work. We stay in consistent communication. So it is possible to do it.
Okay.
Can you remind me of the question again? Because I was there, but all of a sudden sorry.
Yeah, no. I'm just curious for women who are entrepreneurs and are thinking about running, in office.
Yes.
Like, how do you time manage and all of that? You have help. That's the first thing.
So we have some help. I think it's being realistic about what you can actually do. Like I was I was sharing with Monique right before I threw a birthday party this weekend. And I always had this idea that I would throw like these super wild and amazing birthday parties. It was like my dream. And I realized I didn't have the capacity to do it for my boys this year. Yeah. And I went to the Duluth Children's Museum and I was able to shop at Costco before. They had the banners set up, they had everything set up. I could have the place to myself for 2 hours. And I left 10 minutes after. And my boys were happy. We forgot the birthday candles. They don't care.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had to change my expectations. Also, running for office is a business in itself. You have to fundraise for yourself. You have to set up your own systems. You're meeting people. You pretty much launch your own business while you're campaigning. It's a whole business of campaigning. So there's the campaigning part where you're running your tail off. If you got an opponent, you're doing everything you possibly can every day of the week to get your message out there, to meet people, to get elected. And then you get a couple of months off once you get elected, and then you get to serve in January.
So they probably go hand in hand.
They
like
go very
entrepreneurship.
hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I think, it helps, for me, it helps being an entrepreneur because I decide my own time frame.
Yes.
And being a county board member is a full-time job as well too. And so I work really hard on kind of that balance of that schedule. And so I set Monday mornings to be my time. That's
Okay.
only
Monday
mine.
mornings.
So I help the boys get ready with Kevin in the morning. He goes, and then I get Monday mornings to myself. And that could mean I sleep in. It could mean I go for a walk. It could mean there's that. I have Monday mornings. I have that. And then I have therapy midday. And then I review my board packet in the afternoon. Like I set my Mondays. And if I have to take a meeting, of course I do. But I set more blocks of time throughout the week.
Perfect.
That are very consistent. And then I have to be gracious with myself when I don't hit those. Yeah, it is possible once you decide to map out what your priorities are.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to make value decisions on, I might not make it to every play date, for example, or if my son has weekly a weekly appointment for some supportive services, my mom brings him to that every week. And I felt so guilty for a while being like, I'm not bringing him every week. I'm not sitting at this place waiting for him to come out. And my therapist was like, what's the difference? Is he safe and healthy and happy with your mom? Is he getting the support that he needs? Yeah.
Yes.
Are you in communication with these providers? Yes.
Does he know how much he's loved at home? Absolutely.
Yes. It's actually good for kids to have a lot of adults around them too.
Yeah, your mom
it absolutely is. That circle is really important to them.
Yeah.
Your mom probably loves too that she is needed and utilized in that way.
Yes. Most days till she's like so current. And also I have to say I have 2 3-year-olds right this moment. So like holy cow. And 2 3-nagers and they're great and lovely.
3-nagers.
Anyway, it is absolutely possible to do it. I think as you're looking, if you're fully employed and doing a part-time job and launching your own business, I would encourage you just to take a look at where your priorities are. And maybe you need some coaching to help make you decide where those steps are.
Right.
And if you're interested in running for office, county board is a full-time job. So that's a possibility. School board and city council are often evenings. You still have some day meetings that pop up. So you'd have to have a conversation with your employer and be upfront with them. They legally can't say yes or no to you. It's your right to run for office. With a caveat that if you are in a government position and you're running for a partisan office, there's a whole Hatch Act. But I'm not going to get into that if you want to know about that. But for a local office, it is your prerogative to do it. I mean, we even need people to run for the Soil and Water Conservation District, which who would think about that? But if you really care about climate change, these are people that are responding to making sure that our streams are responding to climate change. And so, and there's no one on the ballot for one of them last year. They just had to pick someone. Yeah, it's terrible. And they're like, unfortunately, the person who had been in it had passed away.
Oh my goodness!
And it didn't get filled.
And so, they joke about like New York. There actually is a dog catcher, but around here, like Soil and Water Conservation District does amazing stuff. And there's all this money that comes through the state, and I don't know federal, but that comes through to make our community stronger. And so, whether you're deciding to run for office this year or not, if you're in Duluth, it's a municipal election year. We've got 3 or 4 city council seats up, 3 or 4 school board seats up. Get involved in a campaign. That's one of the best ways to do it is like, sometimes you got to jump in, volunteer on someone's campaign, go door knocking with them, attend some fundraisers, ask these people hard questions, ask them fun questions. And also, I think the biggest thing when I talk with people who are interested in running for office or engaging with people is that like elected officials get the flu too. We are the kind of people that, I come across pretty polished, but sometimes I'm just a hot mess. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, I've had days in our mastermind where I'm just like, I'm crying because misogyny, or I'm crying because it's hard, or I'm crying because
misogyny. Yes.
But it's when you find the spot of, I feel like I finally found the spot at the age of 42 where I'm like, in this spot where I feel comfortable with where my family is and where my life is and where my jobs are, that it's this that idea of ikigai, where everything is kind of all these balls are moving in motion and you're kind of in the middle of all of these different concentric circles. And it's not glamorous. I wouldn't say that all the time, but I found a spot where you're doing what you need to do when you are finding peace as you walk through the world. And hard things can happen. Like I'm watching, or we're experiencing what's happening with our national politics. Even our state right now is
tumultuous.
Tumultuous. That's a really good word. what is our response to be steady? What is our response to take on? What can I take on? How am I buoyant? I'm going to get pushed down. I'm going to pop up sometimes. How are we handling that in a way that shows our community that we can be resilient and strong? And so should some of these orders come through that we've seen, we're going to see we're going to see more hard things happen.
Yes.
And I don't say that out of a fear-mongering way. I say it out of a truthful way.
Practical.
Yeah.
And there are things that, the federal and state government said that the county government says you have to do, and they pull funding, and then we have to fund it. And so I think there's going to be
about to get real interesting.
Yes.
And so if you are worried about what's going on in the world, reach out to people that are elected to, and like sometimes just say thank you. Sometimes people are like, I don't know how you do it, this is not me asking for people to call and say thank you, but when I talk to somebody that's running, oh, thanks for doing that. Thanks for deciding to step up.
Yes.
I think about that. I think that about you all the time. Like, I'm so thankful that you're willing to put your neck out there for us and for women and for our community, and that you have built yourself into someone who can and does say yes to doing a lot of hard things. But what I also can share and appreciate is that you joined our mastermind in part to preserve yourself, right?
Yes.
And to be able to find that space to come back
Balance it all.
to say, like, I can't lose me in all of this. And we know both as women who take on the world, and the family being that part that you really don't want to lose yourself from, but also your career, you got to have a safe space to go and figure out how to reprioritize, how to, just balance and maintain that equilibrium. All the wisdom you shared here, you share with your mastermind members as well, and they so much benefit from being there with you. And then you have takeaways as well that we've seen you grow through. And I think that was you're making some wise choices along the way to say, hey, what other resources do I need to do this well?
It was absolutely worth the investment to join this group, because I'm investing at least 3 hours a month on myself. This is like, what am I doing that I'm just talking about me? I might talk a little bit about my business, but I'm going to learn from other people who are choosing to invest in themselves. And the reprioritization of, I can celebrate the goals that I have. I don't have to be this humble piece.
Right.
I know I texted you too, and I was like, we got this dream client. And you know what? We've got 4 days next week. We're going to Florida. Just the two of us.
My mom. We were just like, that's the why we do what we do.
Yeah.
Did grandma stay with the boys?
She totally did.
Oh.
And we had a sitter that, comes and helps with pickups and drop-offs. But it is it's worth it to actually step in and appreciate those wins. And like when someone says, thank you for doing something, you're like, thank you for saying that. Or you have to receive it.
You have to receive it.
It's a neat world. And I want to see more people step up. And whether it's starting your own business, whether it's, it might be that you're leading a community club around you because you're sick of your neighborhood being dirty.
Yeah.
I've seen both grabbing onto different things in our community where you're like, oh, I see that need. I need to do something about it. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that you can't just, if you find yourself sitting on your couch or walking around your community judging other people that something else has to happen, you're actually the one that needs to change.
Oh,
you need to do the work.
Yes. I say that all the time. Like, if you're not living in your values, how can you expect other people to? So what are you going to do about it? Where are you going to stand up and live in your values?
And it could be maybe you're only spending time within one group of people. Like, I, for a while, was really involved within a church in the area, and I was really only around those people. And I learned a lot from it. I'm glad I'm out of it, out of that season of life. And yet I learned so much more by integrating into every community. So if you see a community event where you're like, oh, what's Juneteenth? I don't know what that is. Go attend. Find out that we have a thriving Black community in Duluth that have phenomenal people here. You hear about a powwow, you're allowed to go to those too. And it's fair. Maybe you reach out to someone or you look online about what some of the protocols are going to be to go to those. But it's okay to be a part of it. Or you see a great business thing. There's the chamber's throwing something. Buy a ticket and go. There are so many times, especially women decide, I'm just going to step back. I'm not going to do it.
Let someone else
step
lead.
in.
Yes.
And so as I was running for this office, my mom reminded me of when I was little, and she used to take me. She was a really strong union member as a teacher, and we would go to school board meetings when I was little. And at the time, I was actually born into a strike. There was another strike when I was in about second grade, or they were readying for it. And she, it's where I ended up serving. We were still in that same building at Historical Central. And she said one day I was sitting next to her playing Barbies, and I said, "Mom, I'm going to sit up there one day."
Oh, wow.
When I was little.
That's so
like
cool.
second grade.
Yeah.
And she had forgotten about it. And I think about, how are you helping people to respond to what they want to manifest? And you really are so cheesy, but you really are the change you wish to see in the world, because you have to start with yourself. You have to start with your family. You start with your neighbors, and going out from there, you can't not make some sort of little difference. And those have ripple effects.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that story.
I could listen to Annie
all
all day.
All day.
I
like chatting with you
just
too.
enjoy it so much. And just so many nuggets of wisdom have come out of this one conversation. And I'm so excited for for your journey to continue.
Yes.
I know that you are so destined to continue to do great things, both with your business, with Kevin, and telling stories.
Yeah.
Tell just like a couple more minutes about that, because I think that is this whole other super exciting arm of what you do.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I have this great business. So Story North Productions is a storytelling organization, and where we work with people through video to tell the story behind what they do. I said story a bunch of times, but really we work with clients to get to the root of why they do what they do, and have them connect with people to know how they want to do what they do. So whether it's an industrial partner that is not just making widgets, it's the people behind the widgets. So what is the story of that and what that story does to build community? So it's kind of back into that area.
It's very much aligned.
Yeah. So we work with a number of organizations that it's finding that hook for people that get people tied in. So we work with nonprofits and help with some like storytelling videos for helping them to raise money.
Yeah.
We also work with larger businesses on, helping people do culture and values. It's hard with large organizations to help share what are the values of people at the top, and they want that to be from the top all the way through the person that maybe be the least paid on their payroll. And so really helping people to connect. And for us, we feel like we set ourselves apart from a storytelling process. So we really dig in and build relationship with people we're telling that our client's story on. So we have a whole story finding process where we work with people when you come in to sit down, similar to how I came in today for this, like before you end up on camera, you're not surprised about anything.
Right.
You know the types of things you're going to be asked. You'll likely cry on camera, and don't be surprised by that. And so what I love that we are getting to do right now is that we're getting to work with these big clients and smaller clients that are finding ways to connect with their customers or communities to make it stronger. And it's really fun. So we've got a couple of staff now. So Kevin's full-time. We have a full-time editor that helps with some production assistant. We have a part-time production assistant. We've got someone that helps us with it's like a contracted director of photography, someone that helps us with story finding.
Wonderful.
Someone's helping with some socials. There's a team of 6 of us that are what launched from 4 years ago, Kevin, or 5 years ago, I guess, Kevin taking pictures of sticks and waves.
Yeah. Sticks and waves.
All the way to getting to work with people. And as we've really talked through a branding process this year, it's what are we doing to help shape the communities that we're in? Those stories that shape those communities are important. So
I love that.
Working with Union Gospel Mission on their project right now to help tell a story about why they want to move there. And it's not just people are struggling, so we want to have this new facility for people. It's why is it important? And it's back to that idea of giving people that connection, the why behind who they are. So yeah.
It starts with why.
That's wonderful. I want to just say, I think you will inspire so many of our listeners. And I hope that I know that you would be open to, if someone is wanting to get into politics or wanting to learn more about your company or whatever, that you would be totally open to having a conversation. You're approachable. You're easy to communicate with, as you know. And I would really want to encourage them to reach out to you because we people who have been around a little while know it's so important to mentor. Like you said, bringing people along. And I know you're that sort of person. And like you said, we need so many more positions filled in our local politics. You don't have to go anywhere. You can just be from our region or from wherever region you're in and you can serve, right? So I will put your contact information in the show notes so that people can reach out to you. Yes.
Yeah. If you're listening and you, again, feel that stirring that you see yourself potentially running for office or have curiosity about it, and you happen to run into Annie, you know, out in the streets of Duluth or St. Louis County, she is someone who's so generous in her willingness to share and to guide others. And or if you're a business who needs to tell a story, and get your message across,
so many
your values, the video form is it's where it's at. Like the moving image is it's king. So you know
we have this great video. I feel like people in our community really it's more co-opetition within video companies. Like everyone's got their own place. There's a couple places that are going to do XYZ really well or this really well. I love that it's not this like sharks versus jets feel. Like we really love this community where I love when you are an entrepreneur here, you're leading, people want to see people do well.
Yes.
And so, I love it.
Beautiful.
Thanks for having me. This is so much fun.
We could do a whole other episode just on your mom's story too.
Right?
And
she should be our next guest.
She's hilarious.
Maybe we could do a
bring
part
the two of us on. She'd be so embarrassed.
I love it. Well, I mean, seriously, like a single mother, she taught you a lot,
so much
that you needed, whether you knew it or not, to pave your own path. So fun. But thank you so much for spending time with us today, holding space, sharing your story, for being in the mastermind group with us. And we really just appreciate you and can't wait to see where you go in life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, friends. You've just finished another episode of the Heart and Soul podcast. We hope that you've enjoyed the show, and if you've loved it, we would love if you'd leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you're listening. You can find links to leave that review in the show notes, where you'll also find other resources that we reference on our show. And if you think a friend could find value in today's episode or any future episodes, please share this episode with them on social media. This is one of the only ways the podcast can organically grow, and we just can't wait to connect with you and all of your besties. You can also find Monique and I on our many social media platforms or our websites, and we're going to leave links to those in the show notes as well. Thank you for listening. We look forward to sharing our hearts and souls with you again next time. With Heart, I'm Mariah.
And with Soul, I'm Monique.